How about now? Ouch, it's too loud. Wait, test. And now, how about now? Come on, no sound? Nope, not yet. Yes, yeah, yippee, cool. So, Romania and the UK, super cool. It's about the shirt, yeah, about the shirt, the shirt, it was, perfect. Okay, so today we have a hot topic. Let me, where is the, 1 second, I have to put the start page, that's the fair one. Hey, how about this one, huh? I will not harm a colleague, I will not ship shit, I will not push, unless reliable tests, nice. So, today we will not go to the beach, unfortunately. We will not go to the beach, but we will try to declutter our work in Java. Folks, the difference between what I normally do as in workshops compared to what we do today is that today I had zero preparation. It's okay, just a bit of reading, nothing preparation. So let's dive in. It's fair to start with the presentation. 2 minutes, sharp. My name is Victor Ente, I'm a Java champion, I know Java. I've been speaking in so many conferences until now, such that I've compiled a playlist for you. It's on my website. I founded a community together with Anna. Now there are more than 1,700 people there, most of which are Romanian, and this whole initiative is for the community. But because I've been asked repeatedly to do it in English, here I am today in English. Okay, since April, fully independent, playing my life at roulette, doing independent training and consultancy on topics, of course, Java related, but also, so this is Java, not only Java, but ActiveX, Java performance, and stuff that has nothing to do with Java. These are the most requested, actually, PHP, C#, whatever. You can find more on my website, where you can find the full agenda, everything for you or your company. You can even join yourself. I'm doing stuff on Teachable. I will try to do every month one webinar. So do join that, but those are paid, unfortunately. However, that's it. I'm also on the social media, and in case you have any other remaining questions afterwards, the best way to reach me is either via email or via Twitter. I don't have my email here. victorrenta@gmail.com. Anyway, so let's get started. Decluttering Java. Such a fancy word, right? Take the shit out. Take the messy code out of Java. Well, okay. When I first learned Java, I think I was in faculty, second year. I learned from a teacher that has over 60 years old, and that teacher told me that in Java we create classes. Let's see. So my class. So first, again, just a reminder, I'm keeping an eye on the chat. So if you care to participate, there will be discussions. So let's make it private. String first name. Good, and let's make it last name. Good. Perfect. Now, my teacher told me that after I do that, of course, we were using JDeveloper back then. Who the heck heard of that? But told me that I should generate getters and setters, and he actually dared to teach me that this means OOP, not to expose behavior, but not expose fields. I mean, don't make public fields. No. Make them private. You put a getter and setter in front of every field, and he literally said that. And this is encapsulation. He said, "Oh my God, encapsulation." It's not about OOP, but just trust me on this. This is not encapsulation. This is just, boilerplate. I mean, honestly speaking, it's very little different than having it public field. Oh, I know. Your architect will cut you into pieces if you do this. Yeah, guess what? In my project, I was the architect, so no one could cut me. So I did that, and this was the data transfer object, right? Ooh, this was like user DTO, which was spit out on the as JSON, public fields. People were screaming, "What's wrong? Oh my God!" But anyway, let's stick with what my teacher taught me. So private, last name and first name, perfect. And let's make it a user, for example. Good. Now we want to generate getters and setters, and we all did just that. We all know how to do that, right? This is the first thing we learn. But then comes Lombok. Now, Your thumbnail to the right. Yes, to the right. Okay. There we go. Thank you. Here comes Lombok telling you that, wait a second, I could generate these for you. Now, code generators, many of us have worked with code generators most of the time when you use a code generator. So again, folks, pardon me if it's not as fluent as a talk, it's freestyle this time, but most of the time when you generate code, what you get after you generate something, you get some source files somewhere in the target folder, and then it depends, target / generated sources or stuff like that. So somewhere in the target, where is the target? Don't I see it? Let's look there. Shortcut display. No, it doesn't work. But you are perfectly right. I should be doing that. But I promise I won't use a lot of shortcuts today. You can watch. You can look at my website. There is a shortcut cheat sheet there. By the way, I'm starting a blog right now. I'm working at that. Let's see how it goes. I'm not much of a writer, more of a speaker, but yeah. There is a nice cheat sheet that you can download and edit yourself for IntelliJ and Eclipse. And I won't be using anything but what's in these cheat sheets. Sorry, in the last version of IntelliJ, those plugins failed to work. So, as I was saying, in the target, there is there we go, generated sources. Typically, something could be in here in case you are using stuff like, I don't know, Swagger generator, or, I don't know, VSDL, or stuff like that. In case Maven generates source code during the build phase, then that source code will be placed here. And this will not be committed on Git. This is the normal way of generating code in Java. Okay, historically, since GEGB 2.1, hey, long time ago. Lombok, on the other hand, is a different beast. Lombok, I will start with the most famous, most well-known, data. Well, data put on a class. Basically, what is Lombok? To use it, so right now this project I just created before the start, just 10 minutes ago. I've started from Spring Data GPA and Starter Web, and this doesn't matter, and this. Good. So I've added Lombok as a dependency, nothing more than that. Okay, it's just a dependency in Maven. What happens then? To state it out loud, Lombok is an annotation processor for Java. What the heck is that? It interferes with the process of compiling code. So, first of all, why are we doing this today? Because I feel guilty. I feel guilty that I'm using Lombok in most of my presentation. Sorry. Thank you for letting me know about that. I think it should be better now. Yeah, I'm new to this streaming stuff. Let's see. Good. So, should be better now. What I mean here is that Lombok annotation processor interferes with the process of compiling code. What this means really is that it can directly write bytecode in the resulting class file. So let's see what we got just now when we compiled this. By the way, in case you want to redo this yourself, remember to reload from disk because the target folder is not refreshed automatically by IntelliJ. Okay, so I won't be needing tests today. Haha, no test for you today. So demo application and the user class. Now, if you decompile the user class like I did just now, you will be a bit puzzled to see that there is here. Well, private fields we knew, but okay, that's the default constructor. But how about these? What are these? Get first name, get last name, first last name. And yeah, and I was. Indeed, Rami, thank you for reminding me. You need to have something in your IntelliJ for this to compile, because you realize if you just run the plain Java compiler on, let me make it a bit more tricky here. Let me new user, okay, and let's it be a user, and then user.set first name. Set first name, John. Okay, now this, if you look at it in not knowing what Lombok is, shouldn't compile. I mean, where is the getter? Where is the setter, right? What the heck? So yes, you are right, Rami. I forgot to tell that. That's a critical piece of information. Any IDE you use to look at source files that uses Lombok needs to be Lombokized. What the heck? I don't know the term exactly. But in my particular example in IntelliJ, I need to have a plugin which is called Lombok installed. This is not by default here, and I need to install that. Now, in case you are using Eclipse or another IDE, let me tell you how you do to activate. So you might be checking out code from my GitHub repository. By the way, there's a lot of goodies there, and you might be trying out stuff. If you do that, you'll get a surprise. You won't be able to run most of my examples unless you install that, unless you Lombokized. Let me show you how I do that. Well, let me see if how do I open the jar? Yeah. Open in show in Explorer. So I'm navigating to the Lombok jar, which was downloaded due to my dependency in Maven. Now this jar is executable. What? Yeah, you can double click on that. Yeah, no, I know. That's the thing. Lombok is everywhere. Indeed, you are right. I mean, I've trained at hundreds of teams and a lot of companies. That more than 2/3 of developers use Lombok, and I was like, wow. What has become of a project that no one really talks about, and that's what I'm doing here. Now, what this guy is doing now is scanning your drives for IDE installations in order to hack them, right? So it will search everything, but you can actually specify. I'm not sure if I still have an Eclipse. I should have an Eclipse. My first love. Where are you? Downloads, not downloads. It's in my PC. I'm using Windows. What the hell? And up. Come on. Workspace, please. Workspace. I can point. I mean, you get the point, right? You can point to an Eclipse somewhere. Eclipse. At which moment it will just check. I mean, it supports some, most, all of the IDEs that are used today to write Java. So if you do that, it will add itself as a Java. Let's do that. Why not? Install update. It already installed it. Let's see what really happens. It's quite interesting to see how it does its magic. Afterwards, skip close. You will see a lot of magic happening. But how does it really work? Well, there is an Eclipse here. In the Eclipse folder, it knows that Eclipse uses the Eclipse ini to start up. So in Eclipse ini, it just added itself at the end as a Java agent. Now, a Java agent is a sort of a black magic, which basically hacks, but provides ways that you can do anything with a Java agent. We can modify bytecode as it gets loaded from disk. Aspect-J use it. Yeah, I know. But I want to make sure that you can run this, right? So either this or in IntelliJ with the Lombok plugin. So what it does, data, it just generated. I mean, in the bytecode, if you decompiled the class file, you get the getters. You get the setters, you get equals. Ooh la la! What the heck is here? My God! Yeah, but just what you just need to note is that it uses both first name and last name. So it included all of the fields in the same. Sound is not good. It's just, can you confirm? Is this the sound? Is it good for you, rest of you? So it generates hashcode and equals. Hashcode equals and a ToString. So let's print out, that it be useful. So user.sout postfix expansion of expressions, which will print out the instance. If you wouldn't have to generate a ToString, you get that ugly default ToString for objects. But if you rely on Lombok, it will just concatenate all the fields together and get the last name equal. Cool. Let it run. So data will generate for you getters, setters, hashcode equals ToString. Of course, you can generate all of these yourself. Not sure if it's no. You can generate all of these. You can instruct Lombok to generate all of these individually. So, for example, if I just say setter, thank you. Oh my God, it compiles and compiles. How to put it? It's strange that the code on Git doesn't compile. Let's state it from now. It's strange that the code on Git does not compile, which is very, very weird. But let's start small. Oh, come on, please run. And so we have setter. Let me continue in the meantime. We have getter, of course. We have ToString. ToString. Come on, ToString, excellent. We have a hashcode, of course, and equals. Everything that I think it's hashcode equals something. Equals and hashcode, yeah, because there is a contract, old, back in the days, they were telling you that you should have, every time you implement hashcode, you should also implement hashcode and vice versa. And there is a relationship between hashcode and equals, yeah, all boring stuff, but it's still there, you should know it. But for now, it generates both of them. let's see if I can be able to run. Please run. So you either put data there or you put all of these. You get the same thing. For every field, it will generate getters, setters, and so on. What am I doing wrong? It's out of sync. Oh, come on. Please run. Now, interesting enough, let's just talk about a bit ToString. I want just to point out something here. But I just want to see a system out. Please work. Come on. But by the way, I will be mentioning a lot of frameworks. Look, there you go. I will be mentioning a lot of frameworks. I'm not supposed to be explaining everything today, but just mentioning what if there will be a little of children here, like, I don't know, permissions, granted permissions, that you even store in the database, right? Why would you not want to use Lombok? Yes, I will explain that, Laura. That's the good question. That I want first to see what it does, and then I will. Yeah, it's some teams hate Lombok. I mean, they banned Lombok just to. Okay. Class permission. Okay, and then this is the list. Thank you. I was like, what? Array list. Yeah. And then if you do that, and if you run again the code, you will get. I mean, what will happen? It will ToString everything, including this. But friends, in case some of you are using Hibernate, have you ever heard of lazy load? Excellent. And what if the permission has links to others, and it also ToStrings everything, right? Like other list of stuff, and list of stuff, and list of stuff. You can imagine where this can get, right? You can get on cascading, triggering lazy load on any collection, on every collection down there. So it can actually basically sometimes print out half the database. Because what? Because you've blindly ToStringed everything. Okay. So let's start with the most harmless one, ToString. ToString apparently is harmless unless you trigger a lazy load. Okay. So to avoid that, a recent version of Lombok have, let's see if I have the last one, equals and hashcode dot, yes, exclude. Excellent. One team taught me, I didn't know that. It's a new addition in Lombok. So upgrade of Lombok in case you are hitting this issue. No, but I wasn't trying to do for hashcode equals. I was trying to do for ToString. There is one for ToString also. So we can selectively just exclude that from the generated ToString, which is nice. Referring to what? Referring to, do I have lag? Not sure. Interesting. My network is connected. Okay. Strange. It moves very slow for me. I don't know why. Something is happening in the background. Let me just check. Come on. My God, this moves very fast. Very, very, very slow. What the heck happens? Come on, really? Come on, really? Now, this is one of the most powerful Windows machines possible, but yet, no, still no. Let's hope. So, you see, this list is no more in the ToString, which is good. Good. So, ToString you can control it, exclude and include. Interesting enough. Okay, perfect. Now, hashcode equals. Let's focus on this one. In case this were an entity, oh my God. In case this was an entity, you could read more than half an hour about whether or not you should implement hashcode equals and how should you implement hashcode equals. I don't want to get yet there, but I just want to tell you that sometimes it might pay to exclude this from the hashcode equals. Actually, it makes little sense sometimes to hash the collection of children. What the heck are you doing? You are hashing the... Nah. So yeah, the same applies. We have this annotation to exclude. So equals and hashcode dot exclude for the things that you do not want. Good. Now, you can actually have more parameters here. You can list, I think, the fields which should be part of the hashcode equals. You could decide whether you could call the super class to include its hashcode in the game. Don't use getters, use fields, for example. Yeah, this is interesting, especially if your getters. No, don't use fields. Then cache strategies. I don't know what's really. Any annotation on param and only explicit. This was what I was looking for. If you have exclude and include, then there must be a way for you to switch whether you should by default include everything or not. So by default it's false, but if you put it to true, you need to mark those which you want to include. Pretty obviously, right? Include. Good. Good. Now, this is good, this is fine, we're just set, and yeah, it's a good warm-up for Lombok. But then, getters, setters, toolsy. I want to show you just the most it can ever do, which is the following. Let's imagine you have this user class, user search result. Now, user search result, what is this? This is a projection from the database. Again, I'm not supposed to be explaining everything today, but in case you ever use CQL like Cassandra or Hibernate or whatever, GPA, whatever, you can write queries like the following. Select new, and then put this here. Right? This is called projection queries, right? Sergio, it might be cluttering, but honestly, this is for large entities, for large objects, it's less code. Otherwise, get, set, HashCode, equals, ToString, come on, it's a huge amount of code. Just look in the left-hand side, the code that you just don't see, okay? Okay, that's exaggerated, that you could write shorter with objects class from Java 8, but still, it's a lot of garbage you don't see. Okay, so user search result, which is queried, for example, from user, which I may want to get only the last name, okay, or last name and first name and not the permissions and not the phone and whatever. So private string phone, let's put some more private string, let's put it on an ID also. I may just want the first name and last name. So if this happens, I might want to return here from user you, and then comes the search criteria where, okay, where, and then I could want to pick only to cherry pick just first name you dot last name, right? This is very, very efficient because you don't select everything from the database. You only take exactly the columns that you need. Okay, this also avoid lazy loading by cascading on the children or even on 2-1 relationships. It's a lot of stuff that we cover in the GPA training, but for now it's more efficient. This is the most efficient way you can write your search queries. So, but you need an object which has these three elements as in the constructor. So what do? I could just say private final long. Actually, if I'm taking from the database, I won't tolerate nulls here. So long ID, why not? Private final string first name. It's a projection, right? It's an object which I'll just throw away on the network, for example, last name. But then I need a constructor, a getter, and so on, all the stuff. Well, how could I do that? I could press Alt Enter and generate stuff, but I could put data here. Now, data, if you put on a class that has final fields, and the only possible way for this to compile is for Lombok to have generated a constructor for it, right? And the fastest way to see what Lombok generates for you is to look in the Control F12 in the outline of the class and see that constructor here. Right? I didn't write that, but it's still there. Okay. But for immutable objects, like if you ever private final, there is one more thing that very few people know about, that you could delete all this and put value instead. Value will also add private final to this, right? Let me prove that first, because it's already too much magic here. Let's look at the class decompiled from the source code, right? From the binary. User search result. Where are you, my friend? User search. Don't forget to refresh if you want to see here. User search. Come on, compile. No, not yet. Again. Come on. And reload from disk. Nope. Still no? Yes, now. So I'm looking for user search result. Let's see what I get here. I get private final. It also made the class final. Interesting. Constructor, good. Get equals and so on. Perfect. Now, good. So it also automatically added private final. Now, what's next? Well, another key feature used by many teams that I see is the builder. Some people are really, really passionate about the builder. What is the criteria to choose Lombok or not? I mean, yeah. The second time yeah, so there are two questions on the chat. Can I override a setter if I want? Yes, I can. set first name, this will override the setter, of course. Okay, so it will fall back to the Lombok in case you don't define it yourself. Second time I get the question, however, when should I choose Lombok or not? To cut it to the point, in case your team is very proficient with object orientation, in case your team, you've tested them, that they know what the basic principles of object orientation, they know that, well, they really know what encapsulation means. They know that they shouldn't just, I mean, the danger with Lombok is the following. Yeah, you're right. You're right. The danger with Lombok is that people will just put data on your entities. That's the problem. And that's what people are angry about. When you mix data, because we already see what data does with entity in GPA, and GPA needs to have this mark.id. If you do that, then you are playing with fire at this moment. Not only an extendable generated crap. No, no, come on, no. Honestly, why would you extend that? So for simple little immutable objects, it's perfect. Why not? Why not? But to put data on an entity is dangerous. Why? Because this automatically exposes everything. Now, if you are working with a tool which generates automatically your ID, generated like this, right, you might not want to expose a setter for ID. You see, you might not want to have a setter. And you can't block Poco plain object. What does C stand from? So you might want to hide some setters. For example, this one. Oh my God, list of permissions. Well, I've had also a talk about immutable objects and how it's a good practice to make sure that those constraints are kept in sync. Let me give you an example. Let me try to squeeze an example here. Perhaps the permission has a bidirectional dependency with the user, right? User. Whether this is a good practice or not, that's another story. But you might have a bidirectional, some consistency rule to keep in sync in your model, right? This is many to one like that, and on the other hand, one to many, and pointing out, come on, one to many, excellent, and mapped by how is it called, user. So you might want to keep these in sync, this end of the bidirectional dependency and the other end. So if you do that, you might want to restrict your developers to add freely in this list. So you might not want to have the get permissions, because then somewhere in the code, someone could just do users dot get permissions. Oh, come on, permission. Thank you. Dot add a new permission here. New permission. How slow it types. My God, it moves like hell. And then this, it's a P, good. And then forget to add the other end. Okay? Yeah, indeed, Sydney. How are you, Sydney? Once you start using Lombok, you'll not be able to stop doing it. Yes, indeed. So yeah, learn it, but don't use it blindly. Exactly. Yes, you can de-Lombok. We will get to that later on. But for now, you might want to enforce a little constraint regarding this. You might want not to expose collections to add externally, but you might want, instead of that. By the way, how do you block the add to this? By just returning here an unmodifiable list, right? And instead of that, this will break with runtime. So the only way to possibly add a permission to the user will be like public void add permission. Oh, come on, really? I'm typing without seeing. Strange. Permission. And then in my permissions, add the permission. And let's see what happens, because it's insane. Permission, thank you. And then on the same shot, go and say permission dot set user to this, set the buttons. But this is just a silly example. You might not be using get. You might not be using Hibernate, okay? Or you might not be using bidirectional dependent links, which are indeed a bit dubious many times. Set user, what have I done wrong? It was not permission. Yes, it was permission. Oh, come on, really? Get this is root. It's set user, please. Set user. Excellent. Good. So this little method will keep in sync will keep in sync, both will end, right? So you might want to write custom getters, and of course you wouldn't expose a setter for this because it will defeat the purpose, right? Someone will just overwrite, which is like insane, set permissions. Not to mention that this might mess up with Hibernate wanting to keep an eye on those collections in case that collection was not really loaded but was a persisting bag, or yeah, it's very, very tricky, very dangerous to do that. So that's why people ended up banning Lombok, because it was misused, right? Well, but if you know what you're doing, so then let me give you the solution. I don't either put data on entities. This is bad practice. And to me, this is bad practice. Bad practice. By the way, all the code here I will send afterwards. I will publish on social media. So right after. Bad practice. Instead, what I will do on entity, I will maybe put a ToString. Maybe depending on the size of that entity. And then I will manually add for ID. Do I want to get it? Yes, I want. I will put on everyone, getter and setter and so on. This is how I like to. I work with my entities, right? Most of the time, unfortunately, in boring applications, you will kind of get and set everything here, except some remarkably things which you might need to keep a close eye on. So that's the risk, that you might just expose everything and come back to public fields, basically, right? If you get set everything publicly, what the heck? You are back with public fields. What's the difference, really? I need to make it an entity, otherwise it will keep bugging me. Let me. Oh, it kind of came back. Ooh, fast again. Yeah, good. ID. Good. So that's kind of it about the entities and Lombok usage. But there are other ways of other things that I want to show you. So again, keep in mind this one. Don't put data on your entities. Instead, do getter setter. HashCode equals it's strange to put an entity. ToString is dangerous because of lazy load. But do use data or values for little objects that you either take from search forms, right? Data objects, the veritable value objects, really. The definition of a value object is that you compare two instances based on every field. This is exactly what this does under the hood. And guess what? Value, rings any bell? And by the way, in case you put record here from Java 15, it will kind of work, almost. It does almost the same thing. But I won't annoy you talking about features that you will be using 3 years from now. So, no. Today, value, okay? So this is one usage for things that comes from query. Other things, let's imagine the first name and last name I want to group together, maybe, in another object, right? Although this might make little sense, but let's try. So I want to create a little it is an embeddable class, full name, for example. Full name, good. And this full name will have private, not final, because Hibernate is not happy with this full name. I will just say string, first name, and last name. Good. And then what will I do with that? I will have to replace the first and last name with this. But an embeddable, it's basically doesn't have anything to protect in my case, right? Setter access level none. I didn't know about that. So thank you, Alexandro. Alexandro points out that you could use setter and then say what? Access level, oh, interesting. So basically I could directly say none at this moment. Which will skip this setter. Yeah, that's better. That's even better. Yeah, I like it. Because most of the time our entities are kind of stupid, right? And just get set. In order to avoid all of this clutter, you could think of that. But again, you want to make sure that your developers are aware of the dangers of exposing state freely to the clients, to other developers, actually. You want to make sure that they fully understand what OOP aims to do, that they know what they're doing there, okay? So interesting. Now, in this case, however, the full name, you could imagine comparing two full name instances by field by field. So you could do this, but you might also want. So, what will this generate? It will not generate a constructor using the fields. You see, it will just generate the default constructor because the fields are not final. If I make my fields final, I will get that constructor, but then Hibernate will not be very happy because Hibernate wants a default constructor. So how do I, and also doesn't tolerate final fields. And Mongo and Cassandra are able to create objects, immutable objects. You are able to tell them how to deserialize immutable objects from the data store, but Hibernate, nope. So you need to stick with that with Hibernate. But then if you really want that other constructor, there is one more, all arguments constructor. All args constructor generates the constructor using first and last name. But then you need the no args. Do I need that too? No, I shouldn't need that. Let's see what I generated now. In my full name, I have what? I have this one. Do I have the other? I don't think the other one is still here. No, it's just the full name with both arguments. But then I have no args constructor. You might be thinking at this moment, what are you doing? I mean, what the heck? You just a line, right? You could have just written constructor and that's it. I agree with that. I mean, you're kind of pushing it. So, already defined? No, I think it's okay. Good. It has a tremendous lag. So this is the kind of thing you could put in here instead of first and last name. You could manipulate instead. Let's try the what Embeddable doing. It's from Hibernate. It's in simple words, it just merges these two columns in the table of the user entity. Embedded. Good. And maybe I want to get a setter on this one. Setter, but I want to stick with that thing. Let's try it. So let's put the getter I want for everything, and also setter I imagine. And let's block the setter for the ID. Setter none. Will it work? Let's see. Control F12. Do I have a setter for ID? No, I don't. Perfect. It worked. And the getter, I don't need it here anymore. Perfect. Look, I've learned something new. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Alexandra. So this one I want to get a setter. Yeah, but it's not a string, of course. It's a full name. Thank you. All right. Composing little objects. This one gets in set. Why not? But for this one, I want to block the setter, and I will override the getter. Perfect. It's quite good. I like it. I like it how it turned out. Very good. Now let's see. Data you could use on embeddables. That's my point here. But data on this one on entities that have IDs that will then turn into generate HashCode equals. And you may not want to implement HashCode equals on users. There is a big debate on Stack Overflow about that. There are two parties. I'm on the party that says don't override HashCode equals. It's my preference. Good. Use external hashing and external equals if you want to compare entities. But that's another story. Okay, that's about it with entities and data objects. So again, a recap. You can put getter setter on the entire class, or you can put it on the individual field. Pay attention with HashCode equals with entities. Pay attention with ToString with entities. Perfectly fine with value on things that you pull out from database or from any other store that you construct, right, with new, right? Also interesting to have embeddable with data. That kind of work. But let me look, Sydney. Other use cases require ask constructor on. Yeah, that's what I wanted to show now. How these play nice with Spring. And this has to do with an old debate of ours. So let's imagine we have a class, my service, which depends on a repository. Can I make it why not? Interface user repo, which extends GPA repository of its user and long. Good. And let's depend it on another class, other service. I think it should work. Why is it in yellow? No, it's okay. Just lag. Now, my service depends on these two. Immutable configuration properties in Spring and Lombok. Immutable configuration properties, not that. Dependency injection I want. I will use it in a moment. Look, but first let me. It always happens when it gets dark outside. I can't sleep. Io non dormo. And then there you go. So my service and other service. Now I want this to be depending on this and this. How do I do that? Well, starting from Spring 3, auto wired. Oh my God, who does that? Many of us do that. Trust me, it's wide, but this is still the widest spread way of injecting dependencies, despite the the attempts to change that. Why would pivotal guys tell you that you shouldn't use that? You shouldn't use auto-wired based, I mean field-based injection, because they say that if you construct this service using auto-wired dependencies, then you will be able to create this instance yourself in tests by hand, because these are magically injected in private fields by Spring, and they will tell you don't use that. But instead, I need to put a component here also, and let's make it a component too. Good. Now, I think I could get the warning. Let's see if I'm lucky. Yeah, it's the little highlight here. Auto-wired members must be defined. No, not yet. Refresh lag. Again, field injection is not recommended. It says there that you should use. I love this. That Spring team recommends always use constructor-based dependency injection. Huh? Spring team recommends. Why do they interfere? Anyway, they will tell you to alt enter here and create a constructor which takes those dependencies. My friends, this is how to put it. This is pointing us towards a very simple technique. Required args constructor. All my services in Spring have it. Look how this can look like. And this is brilliant. This is the best possible dependency injection style you can ever do. You have the constructor, yes, it's there, but you don't see it, okay? Why would you see it? Some people tell me, oh, but I want to see the constructor. Why? Because I may have a lot of dependencies, and then Sonar will scream. And I want Sonar to scream because I have too many dependencies. No, really. So you rely on a machine to tell you how to write code. Yeah, then generate the constructor just to show you the pain. Add constructor parameter. And then let's run Sonar. What would Sonar say? Probably pew, pew. Let's see. Come on, Sonar. Come on, Sonar. Help us. And did I exceed? I think 7 is the limit they've put by default. Let's see. What would Sonar say? It's still running. No issues. It's perfect. No, really. Okay. First, my friend, what are you doing? We don't take 12 parameters in here, right? Good. Yes, I will show not null in a moment. Yes. So, I will put this, and then my pain will go away. So imagine Sonar, right? Sonar looking at the code. Something is wrong, but I can't find the code to complain about because the code is not on Git. I didn't write the constructor, it's just hidden. I'm cheating here, But again, you shouldn't be relying on a tool telling you that it shouldn't depend on 10 other components. However, there is a famous trick here. In case this is a facade, then the whole purpose of the facade is to have a big fan-in to many classes, otherwise fan out, to depend on many other classes. That's the purpose of a facade. So from this perspective, sometimes I don't care about having many dependencies, even more than 7. I have in production things more than 7 dependencies, no problem. So this is the best thing you can ever write in the best way to inject dependencies. Put component, mark your fields as final. By the way, the magic doesn't happen if you don't make them final. Because if they are not final, they are not required, right? And if they are not required, the constructor is not generated. Let me show you that. The constructor for my service is the empty constructor. You might be heading to all args constructor and say, oh, I want to inject everything. Really? Do you really want to inject everything? Even a value? That's the trick here. Okay? In folder path. For example, even a value, this one you can't possibly inject through the constructor. It doesn't work. It needs to be injected using annotation here. So because of this, because of this, I can't use all args constructor. Okay? I want to use required args constructor. In short, I will always type in presentations rack. This is it, rack args constructor. Good. And do this and mark these as final. This will allow Lombok, this will make Lombok generate only the constructor using the final fields. There you go. Okay, leaving out the file parameter. Nice. Oh, and some of you might not know yet that in Spring, up to quite some number of years, when you wanted Spring to inject stuff through a constructor, you had, oh, I've mistyped in a second. You had to put auto wired on the constructor. For many years it was like so. So you had to come here and put auto wired. This was true for many versions of Spring, until at some point they decided, wait a second, let's kill this. I mean, if Spring has to create this, and there is one single constructor on that class, well, of course we will use that and inject all the dependencies. I like to think that they've done this exactly for me to be able to add requires as constructor, because I wouldn't be able to add an annotation on a generated constructor. I like to think that. It's not true, but I like to think that. It's just super cool. Component plus require ask constructor. What can be a good practice for value fields? Well, I just showed you. This is value, but I think it's a value from a different world. Yeah, I think value. I want you mentioned value from Spring. That's why it didn't compile it, really. So that's what I would recommend. Okay, inject the dependencies using final fields, which are an invisible constructor, and then the at value Spring value with this in fields directly. Okay, and there is one more thing I always put on my components in Spring, which is slf4j. This is again another very brilliant addition to your code base. It automatically defines what we always saw, that log file line, that log, this is garbage. We always do that. So it is exactly the same line which gets generated there. I'll look in the chat in a second. Log.debug, and suddenly you have a magic log. Magic. Good. It pays, however, to compile and see what happens. So I don't know. You can figure out even by looking here. By looking here, we can see the log. There you go. And now the chat. If the user can ask, okay, it's okay to lose Lombok's experimental features in production. No. What experimental features are you referring to? Let me. I'm not recording. Project Lombok. Untitled tool is one of the most humble tools I know of, with the most impact in our life, really. Let's see, features. Where are the features? Features. Experimental. Anyway, I think it's var, right? Var. Yeah. You don't need var, folks. Just wait for Java 10 for 3 years. So why I keep saying 3 years? Because Java 17 will be the long-term support. It will come out next autumn, and most corporations will wait for 2 more years probably until they put, maybe at least 1 year, until they dare to put 17 to production. So that's why I keep saying 3 years from now, but var is in Java 10 already. Extension method, no, I didn't use that really. None of this. No, I don't know what these are doing, and I don't know. No. One of the stable ones I will be discussing today. We've seen ToString getters, no cleanup, no HashCode equals yes, no rugs. These we all saw. So there are 3 of them, right? Only final fields. Take this one. Data we saw, value builder. I know people in love with builder. Delegate utility class. Yeah, I'm afraid to put that to production. I don't know. Sneaky Trove is here. I will be coming in a moment. We saw slf4j just now. Very useful. One more thing to think a bit. Yeah, builder. I won't spend much time on builders because I want to show you a better alternative. Also with Lombok. But first, let's try to make a builder for this little class. And again, there are people quite super excited about the builder, the Lombok builder. Let's see what happens if you do that. Well, inside the full name, to my knowledge, yeah, there is a new class added, which is named full name builder, which has a build which gives you the full name that was constructed, has the first name last name which adds more information to the draft instance, right? Okay, let's try to use that. Here, new. Typically, you would do new full name. And this would work just fine in case the number of the information that you put in the constructor, for example, is limited. Let's play again directly with builder. Full name builder, I think it's called. Yes, full name builder. Oh, come on. Builder. Again. Oh, come on. Please. What's wrong? strange. Okay, dot. First name, A. Last name, B. And then build. Now, it's interesting to see what this really compiles under the hood. It's an inner class, yes, indeed. It's actually it's a nested, if you want to be precise, nested class. Let's see what this has to offer. Come on, build. Come on, don't be shy. Okay, so it's a fluent API returning this every time. And it's a nice workaround in case your constructor has many arguments. I've heard people using this in order to be able to have a constructor with 7 arguments, right? If you use this technique, you won't see that constructor. You can just first name, last name, blah, 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 and at the end, dot build, boof, calling the huge constructor. Yeah, builder and data. I will tell you now a better alternative than builder. I will, in a moment. I think, in my opinion, it's better. Let's reload from disk. Well, I was building what? Full name. Where is full name? There you go. Full name. So the builder, I want to see the builder. Full name builder. There you go. First name, last name. And you see what it does? It calls the constructor itself. It's tricky. It could have done it otherwise. Right? Did he answer your question? The first thing I thought about. No, so I don't use experimental features. I think I made it clear. I don't. Good. To builder. I missed the question. Nah. The point is here that I am calling the constructor with first name and last name. Okay? That I'm gathering along the way. Nice. Now, this will work even if full name were immutable, truly immutable. Because you see, at the end only, I'm calling the full-fledged constructor. So let's imagine the full name, where are you? Is really a immutable class, like with final fields, right? If this is true, the only constructor you have, it's all the one with all args, right? Even so, the builder still works, and you are able to create objects like this. This still compiles. There is a complaint here about the Hibernate complaining that I don't have a constructor, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, this works. I mean, without Hibernate, this just works just fine. It doesn't complain at all. Let me see. 3, 2, 1. Oh, come on. Yes. Okay, so it kind of plays nice with immutable objects. Okay? And let's actually give up using embeddables for an instance here. I will full name, yeah, full name 2. Oh my god, full name 2, really? Anyway, full name 2, yes, full name 2, and let's make it truly final field. You know what? Yeah, I want to mess with the other one. Full name 3. That's it, and the other one I will leave immutable, truly immutable object, not embeddable and stuff. That's it. Good. So data and builder play nice together, but these are very good idea. This is a very good idea. Very good for immutable objects, because in case you have a lot of fields here, there will be a huge constructor to call. Right? Imagine new full name, and then you put 10 or 7 parameters there. Now, let's see. We're asking if. Required art constructor doesn't allow circular dependencies. You are right. You are right. If you have this kind of dependency injection and you depend on other service, and other service depends back on you, using the same technique, like this, then Spring will not be able to boot up. If you're using, technically speaking, we are using constructor-based injection, and this cyclic dependency will take down Spring. Spring won't be able to boot up in this regard, and this is a good thing. Circular dependencies shouldn't be tolerated. I mean, it's a design smell around here. Right? Whereas an auto-wired field, Spring might find ways to inject, create one, create second, inject. There are it may trick you in some way. But yeah, you're right. Circular dependencies are not possible with constructor-based injection in Spring. Good, builder. I promised you to show you a better alternative to builder. Let me see if I have time for that. My God, how much time did I spend here? I thought I would run out of ideas, but apparently, let's see. So let's make it full name mutable. Now, if it's mutable, then tell me, why would you use a builder? I would use a builder in order, mutable. In order for what? For to be able to chain methods and fill it up. Tick, tick, tick. Now, my friends, in case you are working with mutable objects, those that don't have final fields, right? Instead of builder, I will show you a better alternative. Let me comment this out for a second. This comment. Good. And I'll show you another better alternative. You can go here, full name mutable, delete the builder, and do the following trick. In your source folder, create a new file, Lombok, properties. Let me see if I recall correctly. It's tricky. I need to make sure that I always forget the key. 1 second. Where should that be? I think design patterns. Yeah, it should be there. So, come on. So not only this it generates code for us, but you can configure that. Ooh, what is this doing? What is this button do? For those old enough of you. So let's see. What will I get if I am generating fluent setters? What was that again? No. Chainable accessors. That's what the official term would be. Now let's play with that. With mutable. Okay. So new full name mutable. God, it takes time. Come on, AJ. Yes. And now comes the fun part. Set first name. Let me compile again because it didn't yet worked. And you know, the setters, why not chaining the setters? What? Yes, chaining the setters. Why not? Like that. You get the same result without the build and without the additional class there. That you always messed up. Well, is it a build or is it the real stuff? And it's always, yeah. No, lazy row doesn't work. Unless you proxy that class. Whatever. So, let's first name F, last name L. There we go. Let's see, did I make it work already or not yet? Come on. Yes, no, not yet. What's wrong? It's in Java. Let's re-import the project in a second. It works very slow. It kills me. Trust me on that. Trust me on that. It works. It works. I need to put it where? In Java. It's still in Java, right? In Java. And it's called Lombok properties. Did I get it right? Config. Ouch. Thank you. Config. Yes, thank you, everyone. And again, save. Good. Where were we here? And this is our favorite way of constructing, of making our entities, or our whatever. Setters which return the current instance back, which are chainable, which you'll see in a moment, if I'm lucky. Good. What other things I didn't have time surprisingly to show you are sneaky throws. This is quite very useful in case you are hitting an unwanted checked exception for some reason. There you go. It works. Yes. In case you are hitting some stupid exception, like for example, I don't know, let's see, what, new file writer, for example. Right. Really? Okay, thank you. Incredible. It works like f.txt. Alt enter, give me something. Wrap with one more. What are you doing? No, it's bad. Thank you. Incredible. You were able to do that. And then writer, write, something like that, right? If you do that, of course, you need to try with resource or somewhere in between, but you will get an exception out of you. Right? Somewhere, IO exception. If you ever have that, and you put it in a method, the method would need to declare throws IO exception, right? Otherwise, it won't compile in Java. Edward Morar. Builders ensure your constructor never creates partially initialized objects. Chain setter, yes, indeed. So, in a moment. Look, to finish up this one. If you just delete the checked exception from and you put sneaky throws, that exception that was thrown there is hiddenly propagated. It's just propagated under the hood and leaves this method even if it's a checked exception, because checked exception are just something that the compiler checks. The runtime doesn't care if it's an IO exception or null pointer exception. It propagates the exceptions just the same. So this one really is able to throw exceptions. The most killing, the most. I will spend 5 more minutes with you in a second. In a second, someone said that. In a moment, we will come back to that. But I want just to show the code for this particular example. So in my demo application here, up until now, we saw that the bytecode that was generated under the hood was actually valid source code. However, this time we will look at the code generated for sneaky throws. Sneaky throws is a bit of a different beast. It not only adds code to the generated bytecode. Oh, come on. Parsing Java. I'm not. Let's see if I'm lucky. Demo application. Come on. Not yet. Not only adds stuff to the bytecode, but the bad news is that the code it adds, let's see. Demo application. Thank you. Method. What the heck is that? Let's copy paste this one over in our own application, and instead of that, put the variant which actually ended up in the bytecode. If you just quickly look at it, it does not compile. How could uncompilable code end up in my bytecode? Java compiler, the Java C, is not happy with it. But the Java virtual machine works just as well, because Java virtual machine doesn't care about your checked or runtime exceptions. So, in other words, sneaky throws put on a method will throw the exact checked exception out. There's another side effect to that, is that you can't possibly catch that exception. Look, I mean, just that one. You can't just say that you want surrounding this one to have a try catch which catches IO exception, because the compiler won't be happy. It's, my friend, you are not throwing IO exception. What are you doing? I am, but you don't see it. No, you can't compile that code. If this will throws IO exception, this will now compile. You see, sneaky throws is meant for exception that you never catch individually, that you don't hope to recover from. Are fatal conditions that you would be, but still, how would you catch that exception? By catching everything. Okay? Okay, now let's talk about validation in constructor. Yeah, the thing that you mentioned there is that, what if the full name mutable? Mutable or immutable, doesn't really matter, wants to validate the data when it's being constructed. Honestly, this plays best with the one which is immutable, to be honest. So, oops, not just one. I want both of them. So, alt insert, constructor, then. What if you want to null check them? Right? If you want to null check them, you can see right now that how would you null check them? With an if. Or you can also use Lombok here. And this is the last feature I will show you, which is called non-null, yes. You will silently add an if to this constructor, throwing exception in case this one is null. It's a bit of a more hardcore stuff. I wouldn't recommend it, especially given that the alternative is so easy. Require non-null. From objects, from Java 8, you have, my God, really? I should type it in. It's incredible. It's incredible. Objects dot require, like in Eclipse, require. Thank you. The alternative is just one liner, so really it doesn't really matter. But this is too magic. In normal cases, it's just I wouldn't. So, in case you want validation through the constructor, then fluent setters won't work. Again, fluent setters means that you are gathering data along the way. Okay, so you start with this one empty, and you put name, first name, and you put the last name. But if you want to enforce validation in the constructor, and then the builder might be better, is better, because it calls the constructor in one single shot, like we've seen in the compiled bytecode. But honestly, validation in the constructor of the data objects in practice is so rarely used. I would like to see it more often. But in practice, with the things that I go, I don't know, 20%, something like. Very few people really validate stuff in the constructor of different data objects. You can put annotation with your fields and avoid the constructor. Copyable annotations. You can put the annotations with your fields and avoid the constructor. Interesting. Ah. You mean like this? Yeah, but it's only annotations. You can't just. But how you? Copyable annotation. It's a flag, I guess. Okay, it's a flag probably. You need to propagate this down to here in the generated constructor. Very well. But what if you want some checks, like is empty? If I don't know, is empty, is blank, whatever. You want more elaborate, not just not null. You know, it's still missing something. Very nice. So, to summarize, because we've got past the time, Lombok is a very cool tool, allowing you to cut out a lot of boilerplate from your code base. But be very attentive. Do not use it unless you are entirely sure that your team knows what and how and when to protect in the state. Like we've seen, just sketching here. Little validation, little constraints burned inside those objects. Okay, is shorter, Dragosh, to use sneaky throws compared to rethrowing the exception as a checked exception, as a runtime. So the alternative to that, to be honest, would be quite easy. Also, it will be to have a try catch, a catch clause, yes, indeed, and that try catch to throw it again as a runtime. Honestly, I don't care that much. So it's the same thing, really. Almost the same thing. So if you think weird about sneaky throws, just avoid it and use that. That's not such a big deal. But it's useful in places that when you're interacting a lot with libraries that throw checked exception at you. And you don't want to do this everywhere. So sneaky throws, it's, yeah. Good. One more trick here, you can de-Lombokize a project. I didn't de-Lombokize a project. You can run the Lombok jar and tell it to remove its annotations from your source code. However, what ends up in your source is very ugly. I invite you to try it out on this project also. Run this, exactly this one, and see this one, and see what happens. Right? Sneaky throws and method references you can't, unfortunately. For that purpose, please look at unchecked from Vavr. I will type in the chat. Vavr.unchecked. That's what you want to be using for method references. Folks, I think that was all, folks. Thank you very much for being here today with me. Thank you for all the ideas. I also learned a lot from you. I was expecting that. Thank you, Dragos. Thank you, Edward. Thank you very much. So yeah, that's it. It's an option in here. Yeah, I've heard of that, but where is it really? Yeah, maybe let's try. de-Lombok. Good. Nice. Cool. Thank you very much, folks, and enjoy a clean Java code base. Good. Thanks a lot, folks. See you. All. The classical all commit. Good. Bye. See you next year. Happy New Year in case you don't see each other again. Bye. Yes, the code base. It's on my GitHub, the last commit, or I could show. Yeah. Victor Renta, GitHub, and then Lombok. Let me compose it for you. GitHub. Come on. Victor Renta. In a moment, I'll paste it. Lombok. I think it should be here. Lombok. It's a brand new project. And there you go. And play with that further. Good. Thanks. See you. Bye bye. 3, 2, 1. Any kind of questions? Yes. Good. Thank you. Have a nice day and nice holidays. Bye, everyone. And 3, 2, 1, out.